I turned 30 years old. In 24 hours, I lost my husband, my house, and my job. So, hello, identity crisis. Who are you without those major societal defining characteristics? My energy, my soul behind the scenes was working with the universe to conspire to give me this freedom that I craved, that I needed. And I got it, delivered on a platter, but I wasn't ready for it. So it felt like a bomb of losing everything in a day. I manifested that. I was responsible for losing everything in 24 hours because that's what I needed to evolve. And that's when I started to realize that I was the conductor of everything. I'm not a victim. Nothing happened to me. This is not outside of me. Everything was coming from within, as it does for all of us and how we're all connected. I really unlocked myself when I finally took accountability. And I think people use good intentions as an scapegoat for accountability.
Welcome to Prodigal, the podcast, where we discuss inspiring stories of self-discovery and transformation. Join your host, Don Jackson, and his dynamic co-host, Big Sean, as they lead you through captivating conversations, all designed to ignite your spirit and broaden your horizons. Whether you're on a journey of personal growth or simply enjoy staying up to date on the latest in culture, you've made the right choice. Get ready to be inspired, entertained, and enlightened. This is Prodigal, the podcast.
Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Prodigal the Podcast. Hi, I am your host, Don Jackson. Joining me, my prolific co-host, Mr. Big Sean.
What's up, baby? What's up? How you doing, man?
And it's a lovely, lovely day here in Southern California. The birds are singing, man. Yeah. It's a beautiful morning. I have my walk. I have my espresso. Now I'm here with you guys. So I'm ready, man. What about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, we had a little bit of rain out here, a little storming for the last couple of days. But yeah, somebody like me, I don't get it out there in the water. And, I'm a black man. We don't do water too well. Shit, I'm keep my ass inside the house. You know what I mean? That's what that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, we got a very special guest today.
Yeah. She's pretty.
Whitney Joy.
Yes, she is.
Whitney Joy is joining us today. She has a very transformational story. From smuggling jewelry to being homeless on the beach to no more stamps in the passport. But we're going to dive into all that here in just a second.
You talking about the 7 pages?
Oh,
okay.
Yes, 7 pages.
Oh, okay.
Welcome to the show, Whitney Joy.
Hey, lady. Woo-hoo.
Hello, my friends. Thank you for that warm introduction. My morning had to do more with keeping my 2 children in line. Getting a 2-year-old and an 8-month-old napping right now at the same time is a miracle in itself. But I am extremely excited to give you my full attention and to be diving into the important work that you do and the important messages that you share with your audience. And I'm just honored to be a part of it.
You said Absolutely. A 2-year-old and an 8-month-old?
Yes, sir.
Oh, God, bless your heart. Bless her heart, Lord. Ooh. Bless her heart. My 4-year-old granddaughter just left. Oh, Lord, no.
Tired?
Honestly, I can imagine your mornings, but no, I can't. It's been a long time.
Shit. It
looks
looks
right.
good
It's
on
fun.
you.
That's what we do. And it's been really fun to write a book in the middle of having those 2 kids. So I've kind of like birthed 3 children in the last 2 years instead.
Well, speaking of the book, let's start there. Of course, your life, your memoir, you had to live a life to write a memoir. So I'll just let you start from the beginning.
Thank you. With everybody's life, there's so much to include. How do you narrow it down? And I really had to sit with it to be like, what would be in best service? What is this purpose-driven creation meant to do? So instead of covering everything, I just told a story. I just took a transformational point in my life, full identity crisis, flipped myself upside down, And I relived it by writing it. And it is titled 7 Blank Pages, as you mentioned, because when I turned 30 years old, in 24 hours, I lost my husband, my house, and my job. So, hello, identity crisis. Who are you without those major societal defining characteristics? And at first I tried to fix it. I was a very, now I'd say I'm a recovering perfectionist, but I was also pretty arrogant and naive. I really just wanted to fix it. I was in denial, and I certainly didn't learn how to take accountability for any of it. But instead,
hold up real quick, because you said something and then I couldn't follow you anymore. All in 24 hours?
At 30?
Yeah.
Bless your heart.
So, I mean, divorce doesn't happen in a moment. If anybody's been in a relationship, you know that things are sometimes a long time coming. But the universe does have a particular sense of timing sometimes. And for a personality like mine, I see now that everything that I relied on, my entire foundation, needed to be taken out at one time for me to truly unplug and hit the reset button that my soul needed. So it happened the way that it was meant to, but everything did culminate in 24 hours. Sunday night, I moved out of my house. I turned over my keys. I said goodbye to my husband, crashed on my friend's couch, bawled my eyes out for the 100th time. And I was super excited the next morning to go to work, dive in. I cared about my career. I had been working on it for 10 years. It was a family-owned company. I was like, this is my redemption. I can do this. I can dig in. Now nothing is holding me back. The next morning, my boss slid a manila envelope across the table and said, here's your severance, or you're welcome to reapply.
Wow. Talking about detachment of so many things at one time. So that had to be some very traumatic situation. Well, all of the situations you just mentioned are traumatic.
Damn.
So how did
you DEI situation or what? They just up and said, hey, your ass is fired. Don't come here no more.
Well, the thing is, they offered me a promotion 6 months before, but it entailed a relocation. And at that point, my marriage was on the rocks. And if I would have moved, it would have put the nail in the coffin. Truth be told, we ended up 6 feet under anyway, but I said no. So then they started thinking, well, do we need her? What else can we do? And they figured out an alternative and just said, thank you for 10 years of service. This isn't performance-based, but we're eliminating the position.
That's that word right there. When they tired of your ass, they just eliminate it. You know what I mean? Just gotta go. That's crazy.
Exactly. So yes, a lot to process at once.
Yeah, so that definitely was a lot to process at one. Like I said, you had the traumatic side of it, and then the natural side of it of still bouncing back and still making a living and having a career. Now, throughout all of this, you're probably going to segue anyway, but I'm so interested to see, how did you smuggle diamonds into?
Yeah, well, that was going to be my question. I just want to know about the stones. Shit, do you still have some access to them? You know, I like diamonds and things, you know.
But go ahead. Go ahead.
No problem. I have a background in extreme sports and luxury. Gemology was something I got into when I was 16 years old, and I needed a job and I wanted a discount. So it's not the average career that your high school guidance counselor talks about, but there are a lot of jobs in the world around jewelry and high-end watches. I also have an ability to fly discounted rates because of family of pilots. So sometimes we would need to deliver a specific, say, an engagement ring that needed to be delivered by the next morning, or we missed the proposal that was going to happen and FedEx was never going to get it there. So sometimes they would send me.
Oh,
that's
so
the gemstone
nice.
smuggling.
Oh, okay. We thought you went over there to Africa somewhere, got up in the hills.
I was delivering where the smuggling part come in. You wouldn't smuggle.
She made it sound like she was over there doing some real criminal activity. I guess she don't understand. She's dealing with a thug over there. Yeah.
There are more stories than that.
Yeah.
There are more stories. There are more destinations. There's some with international borders that involve skydiving. There's some that involve fast trains, but we won't get too Mission Impossible on yet. At least not until you read the book.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Well,
Well, I might say you lived a very interesting life. So,
hmm,
what was
calculated.
the turning point?
What was the what?
Turning point. You.
Turning.
It was like how I vision your story. It was like you were living, not say whatever life you were living and so forth, and it wasn't pleasing to you, but it was fun and whatever. But then you fell on bad times because this is what you weren't supposed to be doing. Correct?
Yep, you hit it there because I had a great life and I don't regret any of it. My marriage was wonderful. We lived in Vail. We did travel a lot. My ex was a professional snowboarder, so my life really evolved around extreme sport and luxury. But my
Mm,
soul wasn't at rest. My soul
mm,
craved evolution. My soul craved change. And it knew that there was something more, something different. And there was a point when I saw a quote that was hanging in my office. It said, it's an Eleanor Roosevelt quote. And it's, you must do the thing you think you cannot do. And my intuition said, leave your marriage. And I
mm,
kind of looked around the room like, who said that? That is not going to
mm.
happen. My ex, he was the one thing I needed. He was my rock, my heart. But after about 6 months, I started listening to that voice and I was like, there's something here. And I was so deep in denial. I was so caught up from receiving love by being a perfectionist and by having a front on that I learned through limiting beliefs in my childhood that I didn't even see the cracks in my own marriage. I didn't see my accountability for my actions, or more importantly here, my inactions to actually address anything, to be honest about it, to face it. So then
Mm.
my energy, my soul behind the scenes was working with the universe to conspire to give me this freedom that I craved, that I needed. And I got it delivered on a platter, but I wasn't ready for it. So it felt like a bomb of losing everything in a day. But really, I manifested that. I was responsible for losing everything in 24 hours because that's what I needed to evolve. But at that time, I didn't see it that way. I didn't have that perspective or that knowledge. That time, I was just angry and depressed and wanting to fix it until I was sitting in my friend's loft and I saw my passport sitting there. I was flipping through the pictures. And then in the back, there were only 7 blank pages left. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take off and travel until these are full. And then I will come back and I'll begin again. I'll move to New York. I'll get my job. I'll fix everything still. So I was half right, half still in denial, but it did get me out of the door and into the world. And on that journey, I went physically all around, but more importantly, I went very, very deep into myself. The characters that I met challenged me. They called me out on things that I wasn't ready to see from my community at home. Sometimes we need strangers to do that. We need to get out of our comfort zone, out of our
Correct.
security blankets, to be willing to face the mirror.
Mm.
So that
Go
means
ahead.
you did a lot. I'm going. I mean, you did a lot of introspection along the way. So tell us about that. When did yourself start talking to yourself when you started
Soul,
working on you?
yes. Well, soul resonance was coming through before I realized what it was. I realized I was remembering things versus learning them. And that fascinated me. I mean, I grew up with books like The Alchemist and Celestine Prophecy, and Buddha walks into a bar. But I also grew up in a church, and I grew up in a teepee, and I had kind of conflicting ideas of what spirituality meant to me. How is this all connected? Where does God come in? How is our energy controlling our lives or affecting it? But along this
Mhm.
journey, somebody called me out. I was proudly recounting my adventures. And she's like, yeah, sounds like a interesting movie, but I wouldn't be in love with the main character because you're still not being real. You're changing things, but you're not going deep. So then I got into coaching, hypnotherapy. I really started looking into my shadow and my limiting beliefs. And that's when I started to realize that I was the conductor of everything. I'm not a victim. Nothing happened to me. This is not outside of me. Everything was coming from within, as it does for all of us, and how we're all connected.
Whether we know it or not.
Yeah, that's deep.
Whether we know it or not, and it's always good to, once you tap in and